When last we left our intrepid adventurers, the party is on the run after falling prey to a northern Deseradan ambush. The party proved victorious, but northern reinforcements are on their way, so they're moving as quickly as they can through the streets of the town of Red Jack. They bustle through the streets, stopping only to pick up their things at the bar. After a brief consultation, they head to the south. Immediately getting off the trade route, they start to follow a smaller footpath that seems lesser traveled. They find a small creek crossing their path, and they take a few moments to fill up their water skins before moving on. The road they're following goes to the seaport of Kodai. They're hoping they can find a ship there to take them back to Sylvia's Rest. They spend most of the day hiding off the road trying to get some rest. And that night, they all dream of Queen Distaria. The girl's face cannot be seen. In the dream, the queen is staring into a swirling fire. The fire freezes, and the queen looks into each character's eyes and proclaims, "I see you." Everyone in the party wakes up. They have a hard time getting back to sleep that night. Kebberdane, Scala, and Morgan get a nagging feeling that they're being scried for. The opinion is that that's probably why all the soldiers have been getting in their way. The party redoubles their efforts and moves further south. The going is rough. A mist has risen and seems to cover everything. Strange shapes seem to be standing in the party's way as they continue south. That night, Ulysses has another conversation with Skinner. The little torture device tells him that his problems can be solved, and all it would take would be to give Skinner a little taste. Just the first knuckle of one of his fingers would do fine, says Skinner. Ulysses says he's not going to do that, and he gets in an argument with the device as to whether he's not doing it because he's afraid that it will damn his soul, or whether he's afraid it's going to hurt. Skinner says he's afraid of the pain, and then makes baby crying sounds at the rogue. The noise of the conversation wakes the rest of the party up, and they sit there and watch as Ulysses acts out the role as himself and the torture device. He yells, "I am not a baby," and then wakes up and notices the whole party staring at him. Thinking quickly, he gives a small bow and then goes back to his sleeping sulks. When he wakes up in the morning, he finds that Skinner has a hold of the first joint of his little finger. This day is no better than the rest. Most of the spell users still feel the gaze of the Dracanis Distaria on them. Several times, Ulysses and Akai go forward to scout. However, each time, they find that they are chasing shadows. They hear the sound of shrieks and moans that can only mean there are death masters lurking ahead. Kebberdane says that he believes that the mist itself may be generated by the creatures. Marcus mutters under his breath that he wants to fight the beasts and not skulk around in the woods. And as if to answer his prayer, 2 of the undead minions ride into camp. They emit a black, cloying breath. It seems to darken the area, as well as provide the smell of a grave. Morgan and Scala join hands and say a prayer to the lady, while Marcus and Seraph attack one of the beasts. The creatures struggle with the paladin, but manage to keep him at bay. The wraiths stream a gust of black breath towards Seraph, and it takes him out of the battle, as he's barely able to breathe. Kebberdane stands in the small, clean area that Morgan and Scala have created. He targets spells at the second creature, but the spells do little but crackle and sputter around the undead. Akai and Ulysses charge the second Deathmaster, but a bolt of black breath drains the fight out of Ulysses, and he staggers back to Morgan and Scala. A Kai bounces off a large rock and lands on the back of the horse behind the creature. She drives her twin daggers into the back of the beast and feels the coldness of the grave as it mists over her weapons and starts to crawl up her arms. She tumbles off the horse to avoid the damaging frost. Morgan and Scala have finished the spell of Sanctuary they were casting. Scala's spells of lightning crackle around the creature, while Morgan has better luck using the force of the lady against the undead. The nearest one jumps off its mount with the Kai's dagger still stuck in its back. It scratches Morgan, and despite her armor, she staggers back with blood oozing from the wound. Marcus has unhorsed his opponent, but he stands alone as Seraph is recovering from the black breath. Marcus parries the frost sword of the undead, then delivers a counterblow that should have sent the thing sprawling on the ground. But it didn't. The thing gives off a low cackle in its dead throat as it moves in on the paladin and deflects the man's blows as if it were from a child. Seraph manages to get to his feet and strike using his weapon using both hands. The blade bites deep, and it won't come out. Seraph kicks at the creature, trying to force it to move and dislodge his sword. Keberdane prepares a spell, despite the nausea he feels from the black breath. An arc of lightning leaps from his hands and strikes Seraph's sword and travels deep into the creature. The dead thing screams, and Marcus steps in and strikes it as it's recovering. His blade pierces the armor, and the power of Chaldasea, his god, destroys the thing. Morgan stems the blood from her wound with one hand and points with the other towards the dead flesh. She summons her faith in the lady, the foe of all undead, and she strikes. The creature explodes, showering them all with flaming pieces. The party gathers around and healing is done. Ulysses overcomes his fear, and they decide to move the camp so they'll have time to regain spells and heal some more. There is the sound of horse brasses, and coming through the trees is Tonda Avan. Behind her is a crowd of infantry. There is nowhere to run to. They must stand and fight.